What's up, everybody? Today is September 22nd, 2021. My name is Derek, and in this video, we're going to talk about several news stories from the past week and talk about how they are numerically aligned with the calendar through the language of Gematria and this ancient Kabbalistic practice that we talk about here on this channel. If you happen to be new here, we focus on the language of Gematria, also pronounced Gematria. It's a very simple practice which simply uses the 26-letter alphabetic order to generate numbers based on words, names, and phrases. You'll see all you do is number the alphabet 1 through 26 and add the associated numbers with each letter. We also have the reduction cipher, which reduces every double-digit number to a single digit prior to adding it to the equation. Don't forget we also have our two reverse ciphers, which simply flip the alphabet backwards. So there's a lot to unpack in this video. We'll go probably for about an hour, hour and a half today. And for those of you watching the video archived, I will be splitting this video into chapters that you can check down below if you'd like to skip to the decode that you want to see. So let's take a look real quickly at what we'll be covering today. First, we start with the death of comedian Norm Macdonald. And I'm not going to gush too much about Norm and how much I enjoyed his comedy. But this was a pretty big one. And we're going to follow that up with the story of the death and disappearance of Gabby Petito. Now, when I first made my blog post on Norm Macdonald, I explained how his death was connected to his sitcom, which aired from 1999 through 2000. And I explained how his name Gematria was found in the date measurements from the dates that the series first aired to the date of his death. And then I found out that Gabby Petito, who was found dead 5 days after Norm Macdonald died, was born 5 days before the Norm Show aired. And the number 50, or 5 in numerology, is a number that they share in Gematria. And this felt like a strange connection to me at first. I didn't really want to make a post on it, but right after I did, I refreshed Fox News, and I saw that they had a headline with the word normal in quotes, and I thought, man, this is probably a nod to the fact that the numerology of this story is strongly connected to Norm Macdonald. So we'll get into that. Yesterday, or last night, we had news of the death of Willie Garson, an actor from Sex and the City, a series which began in 1998 on HBO. So we'll explain how this is connected to the numerology of Sarah Jessica Parker, who has some wonderful eclipse-related gematria in her name. And then we'll dive into the world of sports. And we're going to do a couple of decodes on the English Premier League today. And the EPL is not really something I've decoded in the past. I think the only soccer I've ever really looked at has been primarily like the World Cup and Euro a little bit. But when you look at the English Premier League, I mean, this is an absolutely massive league. And you'll see on this graph, the EPL makes almost double the revenue of any other European football league. So it's no doubt that there's major things going on in the English Premier League. So here we have the death of Jimmy Greaves, who was the all-time leading goal scorer in English top-flight football to this day. During last week's fixture between Everton and Aston Villa, we had a little tribute to a woman named Steffie Gregg, who was a Jamaican Twitch streamer said to have died from COVID-19. So we'll take a look at that story. We'll run to the NBA, where we look at how Jason Kidd was hired by the Numbers, replacing his former coach, Rick Carlisle, who moved to Indiana, his old team. In this Major League draft, the Oakland A's took a second player named Max Muncy, which is funny because they drafted another Max Muncy 9 years earlier. And both of these men named Max Muncy have the same birthday, August 25th. So we'll explain how this connects to the death of Neil Armstrong, the first man to walk on the moon, who died on August 25th. In the year 2012, which is the same year that the first Max Muncy was drafted. And then finally, we'll do a follow-up on the video I made last week about the Brewers no-hitter. So let's get into this. First, we look at the numerology of Norm Macdonald. And as I commonly discuss, the death of major actors and celebrities are frequently coded alongside sitcoms or television shows that they starred in. We just did this a few days ago with Michael Williams, actor from The Wire, for instance. And the big number here is 64 and 44 as well. When you write out the word comedian in Gematria, it sums to both 64 and 44. Norm Macdonald is said to have died on a date with numerology of 64 and 44. The number 44 also standing out in light of the fact that he is said to have died from cancer. In the standard alphabetic order, cancer equals 44. So does chemo. So does the word kill. In the reverse alphabetic order, the word kill equals 64, just like comedian. And Norm Macdonald rose to national prominence during his time on Saturday Night Live, where he was the host of the popular Weekend Update segment. Notice how Weekend Update equals 64 in reverse reduction. The Norm Show ended in the year 2001 after only 3 seasons. And its final episode aired on the 6th of April, the date written 6/4. Measuring from the date that the Norm Show first debuted to the date of Macdonald's death, it was a span of exactly 1,173 weeks. In ordinal, Norman Jean Macdonald, his full name, sums to 173. This also stands out because April 6th, which was the last date of the Norm Show, falls a span of 173 days after his birthday in a leap year. And of course, Norm born before a leap year. This show first aired 158 days after Norm Macdonald's birthday. In ordinal, the Norm Show equals 158. This is also 22 weeks and 4 days. And in reverse ordinal, Norm Macdonald equals 224. When this show debuted, Norm was 2,057 weeks old. He would go on to die on the 257th day of the year. Remember, he was known for making O.J. Simpson jokes. O.J. Simpson 257 with capital letters. But 257 stands out because it's a prime number, only divisible by 1 and itself. 257 is the 55th prime number. The name Norm Macdonald equals 55. And look at the date numerology of the show's premiere, having a life lesson number of 55. Furthermore, March 24th is also the 83rd day of the year, leaving 282 days on the calendar. The name Norman Jean Macdonald and Norman Macdonald both equal 83, with capital letters Norman Macdonald 282. Norman had birth numerology of 33, with all reduced digits. The name Norman equals 33. He died 33 days before his next birthday. So this was a relatively short post, and I couldn't help but acknowledge the insane numerical synchronicities between the death of Norm and this recent story of the death of Gabby Petito. And this is a very bizarre story. I watched some of the police body cam earlier today, and it kind of reminded me of that Chris Watts story, where initially I thought, man, this has to be some sort of media hoax. Maybe it is. Maybe these people are really good actors and fooled me. Of course, I think there's something more going on in this world that's being hidden from us the connection between every living soul on this planet is much stronger than we understand. And when we look at gematria and dates, to me, this is one way of examining that. Of course, the media is aware of this, which is why they would do something like put the word normal in quotes here. But definitely, this is connected to Norm Macdonald. And this is all connected to the current zodiac sign, which is Virgo, ruled by the planet Mercury. Now, Gabby Petito was reported missing on September 11th, and that's a very important detail to this story. The date 9/11, of course, one of great significance. Back in 2001, on the date 9/11, Norm Macdonald was within a day of turning 174 mercurial years old. He was almost exactly that age. And Mercury has been relevant to Saturday Night Live actors recently. So last month, we had the death of Trevor Moore, who got his start in Hollywood and television through the series Saturday Night Live. And this was something I mentioned in my post on Norm Macdonald. As, you know, Trevor Moore was one of the big celebrity deaths I've been tracking lately, which was connected to Saturday Night Live and its producer, Lorne Michaels. Now, the big connection between Trevor Moore and Lorne Michaels was through the number 44. Trevor Moore was born on April 4th, or 4-4. SNL producer Lorne Michaels was born in the year 44 and was in the first day of his 4,004th week when Trevor died. And Trevor died 4 months, 4 days after his birthday, with the end date included. And then when we learned how Trevor Moore died, it was 4 weeks and 4 days after he died. Remember, the word kill equals 44. And this was significant to the comedian Norm Macdonald, comedian 44, dead on a date with 44 numerology from cancer. And Trevor Moore allegedly fell to his death, right? And there were a lot of speculations going around about how he died in the month before we found this out. A lot of people thought that he died because he was making moonshine and poisoned himself. And understand, Trevor Moore died on the date of a new moon when there was no moonshine, right? Well, who was the last major celebrity that you can remember falling to his death? The first thing that popped in my mind was Kobe Bryant. And how strange is it that when this news about Trevor Moore falling to his death was published, Trevor Moore was the exact same age as Kobe Bryant was when he died. 41 years, 157 days. The name Kobe Bryant equals 41 and 157. Now, Trevor Moore also died in relation to Mercury. Well, let me run these numbers quick. So this was September 7th, and this is a number connected to Norm Macdonald as well, but 15,131 days. So 15,131 divided by a mercurial year, which is a little under 88 days. And see this? Trevor Moore, exactly 172 mercurial years old. And remember, Mercury is the god of transportation and travelers. Kobe Bryant traveling to a basketball game when he died. Kobe Bryant, a traveler in basketball as well, often not dribbling on his way to the hoop. In reduction gematria, the name Trevor Paul Moore sums to 79. And this news about how he died broke on September 7th, which can be written 7/9. Remember, murder equals 79. The full name Norman Jean Macdonald equals 97. And consider how September 7th here in the United States is written 9/7. So a very strong connection between these two deceased SNL comedians. All right, but back to this story about Gabby Petito. So again, the remains of Gabby found on September 19th, which was 5 days after the death of Norm Macdonald. The Norm Show debuted 5 days after Gabby Petito was born. And in reduction gematria, Gabby Petito equals 50, like the number 5. Her date of birth even has a life lesson number of 50, giving her a life path of 5. The name Macdonald also has this 50 or 5 gematria in the reverse alphabetic order. And check out how the name Macdonald equals 31 in reduction, just like Gabby's last name Petito, 31. The 31st prime number, by the way, 127. Look at Norm Macdonald in the alphabetic order, 127. And Norm Macdonald, intriguingly, was listed as the 31st greatest stand-up comedian of all time. Of course, they've taken this off his Wikipedia page now, but if you look up Paste Magazine made a list of the best comedians of all time, and Norm Macdonald came out 31st, right? And this is all connected to the name Macdonald. The name Gabriel sums to 149 in Jewish gematria, and 14/9 is the date that Norm Macdonald died at the age of 61. Norman Macdonald equals 61 in reduction. And Gabby Petito was reported missing on September 11th, which had 61 numerology. She went missing in the Grand Tetons, which is 61. But when we look at the calendar, this really gets bizarre. So let's look at all of these other ciphers and explain how these are connected through the name Macdonald. So if you measure from Norm Macdonald's birthday, October 17th, to Gabby Petito's on March 19th, you get 153 days, which is Macdonald in Jewish gematria. Jewish or Latin gematria is one of 2 primary large number ciphers I teach on this channel. And you'll see this is very similar to English gematria. English uses the current 26-letter alphabet, but structures the numbers similarly to ancient Hebrew gematria. This Latin or Jewish cipher uses the original Latin alphabetic order with more modern English characters placed at the end. And I consider this Jewish gematria cipher to be perhaps just as significant as ordinal and reduction, if not more so. So here, Macdonald equals 153. Gabby's birthday is the 19th of March, or 19/3, 193. And when Gabby went missing on September 11th, it was 176 days after her birthday. In regards to the number 67, which is the ordinal value of Macdonald, this is the 19th prime number, and the name Gabby equals 19. Gabby, born on the 19th. She went missing 190 days before her birthday, like the number 19. And then her remains were discovered on September 19th, another 19. The 19th prime, 67, blood sacrifice, human sacrifice, 67. On top of this, the number 193 is another prime number. Again, Macdonald 193, Gabby born on 19/3. And look at that, it's the 44th prime number. And that was the huge number connecting Norm Macdonald to Trevor Moore. The name Gabrielle sums to 44. Her boyfriend's name was Brian, which sums to 44. The name Gabrielle Petito equals both 75 and 87, just like Norman, who was born on the 75th day of the year. In ordinal, Gabrielle equals 71. Norm Macdonald equals both 71 and the 71st prime number, which is 353. And 71 is also the ordinal value of Virgo. And again, the whole Gabby Petito saga occurred during the time of Virgo. Virgo begins at the end of August, see the 22nd? It's just being reported now today that Gabby died on the 27th, just a few days later, with her remains being found on the 19th, just before the end of Virgo. And again, reported missing on September 11th, the date of the major 9/11 Virgo ritual. And Virgo has some more interesting numbers. The 64 stands out, as we led the whole Norm Macdonald event off with the number 64. Norm died on the 14th of September, 14/9, like the 35th prime number, Virgo 35. There's more here. It's a lot to unpack, but the connections are strong. Back to this 9/11 date. Ritual human sacrifice sums to 9/11. And the number 9/11 is the 156th prime number. And isn't it wild that the name Gabby Petito sums to 156 in ordinal? Reported missing on 9/11. Incredible. The number 33 also has this gematria of 156. And remember, this was another number connected to Norm. Remember, Norman, born on a date with 33 numerology, dead 33 days before his birthday. September 11th falls a span of 330 days after Norm Macdonald's birthday. Her remains were found on a date with 33 numerology. It's believed that she was killed by her fiancé, whose birthday falls 33 days after Norm Macdonald's. 33 and ritual human sacrifice with the same gematria. If you take her nickname instead, Gabby Petito, notice how you get 122. And this is the reverse of 221, like this year, 2021. Missing white woman, 221. Gabby Petito was born 122 days after her fiancé's birthday. Now, without the end date, this is 121 days. Gabby Petito has birth numerology of 121. This is the value of blood sacrifice, 121. And in reverse, blood sacrifice equals 257. Remember, this number was connected to Norm Macdonald, who died on the 257th day of the year. Gabby Petito was born exactly 2,057 weeks after Norm Macdonald. Recall 257, the 55th prime, Norm Macdonald, sacrifice 55. Fiancé Brian Laundrie had birth numerology of 55, and his birthday is also connected to Norm Macdonald. He was born almost exactly 457 months after Norm. This was within 1 day. And 457 is the 88th prime number. Brian Laundrie equals 88 in reverse reduction. Am I crazy? I don't know. You guys tell me in the comments. But these connections are too strong. So, oh, by the way, there's more here. Norm Macdonald has primary birth numerology of 105. Gabrielle Venora Petito, 105 in reduction. She went missing at Grand Teton National Park, which equals 97, like Norman Jean Macdonald, 97. Remember, Norm Macdonald was fired from Saturday Night Live at the end of the year 97. The word death equals 97, which is the 25th prime. And check out how the names Gabby Petito and Brian Laundrie have matching ordinal gematria with Grand Teton National Park, 250 ordinal. And then we're told that he goes home and lives a normal life. Crazy things going on in this world. All right, so for the next decode we're going to look at, just yesterday we learned about the death of actor Willie Garson, who played Stanford Blatch, I believe, on Sex and the City. Yeah, Stanford Blatch. Didn't exactly watch the show myself, so couldn't tell you off the top of my head, but there it is. So Garson dies yesterday at the age of 57. And if you watch my videos, you know what 57 is all about. It's about the moon. Remember, the moon has a 57-degree range of declination, north and south, 28.5 degrees either side of the equator. This guy was an actor on Sex and the City. The word city equals 57 in ordinal. And this actor was born exactly 57 weeks before Sarah Jessica Parker. Let's pull up Sarah Jessica Parker's page. And I want you to think about how Sarah Jessica Parker has always been called by her full name. Not once have I ever heard her referred to as Sarah Parker. And this is because the gematria of her full name is extremely significant. Before we get there, let's look at her birthday, March 25th, 1965. If you measure from March 25th to September 21st, when Willie Garson died, you get 180 days. In the reverse order, Willie Garson equals 180. Today, when most people would be learning about the death of Willie Garson, today is a span of 182 days after Sarah Jessica Parker's birthday. And in ordinal, Sarah Jessica Parker, 182. But let's look at the gematria here of her name and how great it is. So first we start with Jewish gematria, where we get 1214. The number 1214 is like a date, December 14th. And December 14th was the date of the 2020 total solar eclipse. A very, very significant eclipse. Remember, the CVVAX was approved by the FDA, or not the FDA, but who approved it on that day anyway? I think it was just approved for emergency usage, but that's when it first began being administered. And look at the 704 in English gematria for Sarah Jessica Parker. Total solar eclipse is 704. In that same method, eclipse is 192. The name Sarah Jessica Parker, 192 in Sumerian. So her name is just this wonderful eclipse riddle. Now, on the date of the 2020 total solar eclipse, Sarah Jessica Parker was 264 days after her birthday. 264. Well, this stands out because Willie Garson died on September 21st, which is the 264th day of the year. And Willie Garson's full name is William Garson Pajamont, which sums to 264 in the alphabetic order. Furthermore, his name equals 219 in English gematria, and consider how he died on the 21st of September, the date written 21/9. Remember, this was the 2020 total solar eclipse. Total solar eclipse equals 202, the same numerology as 2020. And Willie Garson was born on the date written 20/2, which is the 20th of February. Measuring from that 2020 eclipse to the death of Willie Garson is a span of 9 months and 9 days, or 283 days. I'm sorry, this is today's date. So what we're looking at here is when this story is circulating widely in the news. So 283 days, 9 months, 9 days. These are numbers found in the moon. The moon equals 99 and 283. Now, the fact that the moon sums to 283 in Jewish Gematria is very significant because the other number that I talk about the moon being connected to most strongly is 666, which is 2083. And you got to love 2083 because it's the 314th prime number, 314, the first three digits of pi. And 666 is significant to Sex and the City, which first aired on June 6th. Look at this, June 6th, like 6-6. Here is wisdom 66, number of a man 66, number of the beast 66 in Gematria. And its first episode aired in 1998. Well, guys, what's 66 times 3? That would be 1998. If I can figure out how to use this Google calculator. I wanted to share like my Windows calculator, but like I can't share it as a window for some reason. Anyway, 666 times 3 is 1998. So this number is strongly connected to Sex and the City. Willie Garson died one day after he turned 691 months old. Eclipse of the sun equals 691 in Jewish Gematria. Masonry also, by the way, 691. So Willie Garson's death was connected to the eclipse of our sun, which is, of course, a star. Isn't it interesting that Sex and the City was created by a man named Darren Star? In the reverse order, the name Darren Star equals 152. And not only did Willie Garson die 15 weeks and 2 days after the anniversary of Sex and the City's premiere, he also died 152 days before his 58th birthday. In reduction, Sex and the City equals 58. So does the name Star. Star equals 58 in ordinal. Star also 271 in Jewish Gematria, which is, of course, the 58th prime number. Willie Garson's birthday falls a span of 211 days after Darren Star's. And this 211 stands out because if you measure from the end of Sex and the City, the final episode, to the date of his death, it was a span of exactly 211 months. And on top of that, it was also 211 days after the anniversary of the final episode. 211, the ordinal value of ritual human sacrifice. In Jewish ordinal, ritual human sacrifice is 202. Remember, total solar eclipse 202. And Garson was born on 20/2. Sex and the City's premiere was on the 157th day of the year. Sex and the City equals 157. And Darren Star's birthday falling 157 days after Willie Garson's. So we talked about Virgo a little bit earlier. Again, Garson dying on the final day of Virgo. Virgo equals 71, so does Darren Star 71. Willie Garson dying on a date with 71 numerology, which fell 7 months and 1 day after his birthday. This date also had 35 numerology, which is the reduction value of Virgo. Willie Garson, born in the year 64, his real name, Willie Pajamont, equals 64, so does William Pajamont. 64, the reverse value of Virgo. Virgo 64. Now, if you take every single number from 1 through 64 and add it together, you get a sum of 2,080, right? 2,080. Oops. His full name equals 2,080 in Jewish Gematria, the 64th triangular. And Virgo is ruled by the planet Mercury. And every planet that's visible to the naked eye has its own magic square. And the magic square of Mercury, made up of 64 smaller squares, has a total sum of 2,080, dying on the last day of the Mercury sign. Now, we also talked about how his death was connected to the moon through the number 57 and last year's total solar eclipse. Well, there's also a magic square of the moon. And if you take every number 1 through 81, because there's 81 squares here, we find that the magic square of the moon has a total sum of 3321. And look at how old Willie Garson was when he died. 21,033 days at the age of 57. All right, with that out of the way, let's touch on the passing of English footballer Jimmy Greaves. And like I mentioned at the top of the video, the English Premier League doesn't get enough attention from the Gematria decoding community because, man, some of the stuff playing out over there, across the pond, so to speak, is pretty incredible. So Jimmy Greaves, again, this was the highest scoring player in English top-flight football history. So he's a big name. He had 6 international hat tricks for England. And he also helped England win a World Cup in the year 66. So this is a big, big name. And I found it interesting that Jimmy Greaves began his football career in the year 1957. And his name equals 1957 and 57. 57 is also the ordinal value of England, the nation he played for. So Greaves came up with Chelsea through his youth career and spent 4 or 5 seasons playing for Chelsea. Then, after a very brief stint in Italy, he came back to England, where he played 10 years for Tottenham Hotspur. And he's Tottenham Hotspur's all-time leading goal scorer and a name that is synonymous with the club. Well, how strange is it that the same day he died, Chelsea played against Tottenham Hotspur. And this was a Sunday primetime game. Most EPL games are played on Saturday. The date of Greaves' death, as well as the game between Chelsea and Tottenham, was on the 19th of September, which is written 19/9 in England. With capital letters, Jimmy Greaves equals 199. In reverse, Tottenham Hotspur equals 199. In the Fibonacci cipher, Chelsea equals 199. 199 is the 46th prime number. Both Tottenham and Chelsea FC sum to 46 in reverse reduction. 46, a number of sacrifice, kill and murder, 46 in Hebrew. Greaves was born on a date with primary numerology of 81. He would go on to die at the age of 81. And he was the biggest player in Tottenham's history. Now, Tottenham Hotspur is currently coached by Nuno, who is now known by his full name, Nuno Espirito Santo. And Nuno was hired by Tottenham earlier this year on June 30th, which fell 81 days before the death of Jimmy Greaves. This is also a span of 82 days and Nuno Espirito Santo equals 82 in reduction. On the date Nuno was hired, there was numerology of 77, 41, and 57, all of three of these numbers appearing in the value or in the gematria of Greaves and Jimmy Greaves. So Greaves dies on a date with a life lesson number of 33. This connects to his team, the Spurs. England is 33, so is EPL, English Premier League, 33. Earlier we talked about how 33 connects to ritual human sacrifice. Well, check out the birthday of Jimmy Greaves. He, too, was also born on the date February 20th. That's the same day that Willie Garson was born. So two men with the same birthday. And again, 20/2 connecting to ritual human sacrifice in Jewish ordinal. This man died 211 days after his birthday, which is the ordinal value of that phrase. And when he won a World Cup for England back in 1966, he won the World Cup on a date with the 211th day of the year. That World Cup victory also had date numerology of 103. Greaves ended up dying on the date that leaves 103 days in the year. 103 is the sum of ritual human sacrifice with the S exception. The number 22 is also big here. Again, he was born on the date 220. Both Tottenham and Chelsea are based in London, England, which sums to 220. And think about how the number 22 connects to football, where there's always 22 men on the pitch. The American version of football is the National Football League, which sums to 220. And Jimmy Greaves died exactly 22 weeks before his next birthday, which falls on the date 2/20/2022. 22 weeks is also 154 days. Ritual sacrifice 154. There seems to be a little bit of astrology here as well. And this is through Chelsea, who won Sunday's game against Tottenham. Chelsea's crest has a lion on it. And in astrology, the lion is symbolized by the constellation Leo. And back in July, I talked about how Leo is connected to the heart. So see my video on Bismarcky for more on this. Notice how the word heart sums to 194. And footballer Jimmy Greaves was born in the year 1940. The heart is the symbol of Valentine's Day, which falls on 2/14 each year. If you measure from Jimmy Greaves' World Cup victory to the date of his death, you get 20,140 days, like 2/14. He also died a span of 52 days after the anniversary of that World Cup win. And the word heart equals 52 in ordinal. Now, the number 52 is significant to England for another reason. Queen Elizabeth II became the Queen of England in the year 52. And look at her date of birth. 21 April, like 21/4, 214, this Valentine's number. And if you measure from the Queen's birthday to Greaves' death, you get 21 weeks and 4 days. And then to her next birthday, it's 214 days. So let's just run this and show you how this works. What do we see here? So from 21/4 to Greaves' death is 21 weeks and 4 days, and then it's 214 days to her next birthday. So there's definitely some sort of Leo heart riddle here to be unpacked. Seeing as we're talking about the Premier League, I wanted to talk about this interesting tribute from a player named Leon Bailey, who plays for Aston Villa. So after Leon Bailey came into the game in the second half, he caught fire, and first he caused an own goal, and then a few minutes later he scored a goal of his own. And after scoring his own goal, he took off his uniform to display this message that says, "Forever loves Steffie Gregg." Earlier this month, fellow Jamaican Raheem Sterling also had a similar tribute. He pulls off his England uniform and shows, "Love you forever, Steffie Gregg." And I first ran the Gematria on this phrase, "Love you forever, Steffie Gregg," and it came out to 318. Well, this is interesting because Steffie Gregg, who is a Jamaican Twitch streamer and model, allegedly passed away on August 31st, which is the date written 31/8 in England. And Steffie Gregg allegedly died of COVID-19, as she was immunocompromised or something, had lupus, I guess. And now her death is being used to push the coronavirus vaccine, the CV vax, in Jamaica. And this woman, again, she wasn't a nobody. Not only was she a famous model and Twitch streamer, but she also had famous relatives. Her dad was a famous actor and race car driver. Her brother was a famous race car driver. On top of that, her uncle is a record producer named Russian. This guy here, Tariq Johnston. And notice how Tariq Johnston was 33 years old at the time of his niece's death. Corona equals 33. But what really stands out about his name is that he recently changed it. So he used to be known as Russian, Russian. But then he changed it. He changed the U to a V, Russian. And this is something a lot of artists have been doing, where they replace certain letters with numbers or similar characters. I can't help but wonder if it's somehow a nod to Jewish Gematria, right? Because remember the Latin alphabet, the U used to be a V, and vice versa. So anytime you would see a V, it was actually pronounced a U. Anyway, when you look at Russian's death at the time of his niece's... Sorry, I'm misspeaking a lot today. Got to eat a bigger breakfast, I guess. Tariq Johnston was exactly 400 months and 20 days old when his niece died. He was also 142 days after his birthday. The numbers 42 and 142 are both connected to coronavirus, or CV. I can't stop myself from saying it. And look at the name Russian. When spelled with the V, it has matching gematria with COVID-19, 1010. So the name Gregg sums to 44 in ordinal, and this matches Aston Villa FC, who Leon Bailey plays for. Gregg died 4 months and 4 days before her birthday on a date with a life lesson number of 44. Remember, kill is 44. Steffie was only 26 years old when she died. Look at how COVID, virus, and disease equals 26. Her birthday was January 4th, which is also found in the gematria of Aston Villa FC. But what's so crazy about this story is the number of 19s that I found in it. And remember, it's said that she died because of COVID-19. Let's look again at these photos of Leon Bailey and Raheem Sterling's shirts. You may notice how the name Steffie is spelled differently on Leon Bailey's shirt. And nowhere on the internet could I find that the name Steffie was spelled without an E. So think about how disrespectful that is, right? To pay tribute to somebody and then not even be able to spell their name right. That seems really stupid. But when you spell it this way without the E, look at the ordinal value of 109. This number in numerology represents 19. This was on the shirt of a man named Leon, whose name equals 19. He was paying tribute to a model, which equals 109. And this game fell a span of 109 days before her birthday. Bailey wears number 31, which sums to 109. And he plays for Aston Villa FC, which equals 190. Meanwhile, the last name Gregg equals 19. And Gregg was born on a date with 19 numerology. Also check out the 119, which is also found in Steffie. On the date of this game, Leon Bailey was 1 month and 9 days after his birthday. But to really solidify this connection is the fact that he was 24 years and 40 days old, which represents the number 244. In Jewish Gematria, 19 equals 244. If you look at a calendar, you'll find that 19 weeks is 133 days. Leon Bailey was born on a date with primary numerology of 133. In this same Jewish or Latin cipher, CV equals 1303, the virus. And remember, it was the date the 13th of March, or 1303, on which CV was declared a national emergency here in the United States. Leon Bailey's tribute fell 45 days after he signed with Aston Villa. COVID-19 equals 45 in reduction. This tribute came against Everton FC, which equals 45 in both reduction methods. When Bailey signed with Aston Villa, it was a date with 53 in numerology, like COVID 53. Aston Villa also equals 53. Aston Villa FC also 804. And 804, or August 4th, is when Bailey signed with the team. But we're not done with the 19s, guys. If you multiply 19 times 19, you get 361. Steffi Gregg was born on the date leaving, 361 days on the year. Leon Bailey signs with Aston Villa 361 days after his birthday. And when he signed that contract, look how old Steffi Gregg was. 319 months old. These are the same digits as COVID-19, 139. Killing equals 319. But not only that. So again, exactly 319 months old. She was also 212 days after her birthday. COVID-19 equals 212 in the reverse alphabetic order. And think about this 319 and how it connects to killing. Remember, we've been talking a lot about the death of Gabby Petito in this video. And Gabby Petito was born on 319, like the date, like this word killing, 319. Back across the pond to the United States. And we're going to look at a couple of hirings that occurred near the end of June in the NBA. So first we'll look at Jason Kidd, who recently became the new head coach of the Dallas Mavericks, where he spent the majority of his playing career, or at least a lot of it. Jason Kidd is replacing Rick Carlisle, who Jason Kidd played under when the Mavericks won the 2011 NBA championship. And it's funny, I was actually going to do a post on every coach who was hired in the NBA this offseason, but this riddle is so deep that I only got through these first two. And really, this is all you need to see, that something greater is going on in these leagues. So first, let's examine how the name Jason Frederick Kidd has a lot of overlap with Dallas, the number 166 and the number 113. And Jason Kidd played 3 seasons with the Mavericks when he started his career, and then he played 5 more seasons with the Mavericks, winning an NBA title, his only title. Kidd was born on a date with reduced numerology of 28. And this is the ordinal value of the name Kidd, 28. In reduction, Dallas, Texas equals 28. And the Mavericks hired Kidd on the 28th of the month, which fell exactly 28 weeks after the last total solar eclipse. In Hebrew Gematria, the phrase for total solar eclipse sums to 280. He was also hired 13 weeks and 6 days after his birthday. Dallas equals 136. This isn't Jason Kidd's first head coaching job. His last head coaching job was for the Milwaukee Bucks, who recently won the NBA championship. Notice how Milwaukee equals 1180, like 118. Wisconsin also equals 118. And notice how Jason Kidd was born on a date with 118 numerology. This also connects him to the city of Dallas, Texas, which sums to 118 in ordinal. And I found it interesting that Jason Kidd was fired from the Bucks in January of 18, or 1 of 18, 118. In the reverse alphabetic order, Dallas, Texas equals 179. Jason Kidd was hired on the 179th day of the year, exactly 179 weeks after he was fired by the Bucks. What also stands out is that Jason Kidd's final game as a player for the Mavericks fell exactly 17 years and 6 months after his first game. And I understand 6 and 9 are not the same number, but they are the same when flipped upside down. On top of this, 179 is the 41st prime number. Dallas equals 41. And then 41 is the 13th prime. Dallas equals 13, etc. Jason Kidd's full name in Jewish Gematria, we pointed out how the 166 and 113 connects to Dallas. But let's look at this 1010. In numerology, this represents the number 11. And 11 is the year that the Dallas Mavericks won the NBA title. Jason Kidd was hired as the head coach exactly 11 days after Rick Carlisle stepped down. And it appears as if Rick Carlisle, when he was hired by the Mavericks, it was completely aligned with their championship. So check this out. When Dallas won the NBA championship in 2011, it was on a date with numerology of 49, 22, and 13. In Gematria, Dallas equals 49, 22, and 13. In the reverse alphabetic order, Dallas equals 113, like Jason Kidd's full name. The National Basketball Association equals 113. And Dallas won the NBA championship exactly 1,130 days after Rick Carlisle was hired. And measuring from that championship to the date that the Pacers took Carlisle back was a span of 10 years and 13 days for another 113. The name Rick Carlisle has some overlap with Dallas Mavericks through the number 12. Rick is 102, Rick Carlisle 120, Dallas Mavericks 102. When the Pacers hired him, it was exactly 120 months and 12 days after the Mavericks NBA championship. It was also a span of 1,020 days before the next Great American Eclipse. The word eclipse equals 120, like 12, and that eclipse passes directly over the city of Indianapolis, which is where the Pacers play their home games. So isn't it funny that you have this coach moving from Dallas to Indianapolis 1,020 days before the eclipse, and this eclipse moves from Dallas to Indianapolis. The name Carlisle sums to 34, just like Indiana, 34. And when Rick Carlisle was hired, it was exactly 304 years after the establishment of modern Freemasonry. And of course, Freemasonry linked with the Eclipse Code, as I commonly explain. On top of this, the 34th prime number is 139, which is the ordinal value of Freemasonry. Now, Carlisle and Indiana also share this 137 in reverse. 137 is the 33rd prime number. Both Jason Kidd and Rick Carlisle have Gematria of 33 in our main ciphers. Masonry equals 33. Of course, it's said the 33rd degree of Masonry is the highest. But another word that equals 33 is eclipse 33. And Indianapolis rehired Rick Carlisle 192 days after the last total solar eclipse. Next, I want to take a quick glance at Major League Baseball, who had a very interesting riddle with the Oakland A's this past summer. So over the past year or two, I've been explaining a lot about how the Dodgers are a very significant moon team, and this is because they're in Los Angeles, which is a city incredibly connected to the numerology of the moon and its metonic cycle. I've done many posts on this. You can find these posts linked in my blog. And I actually made an entire post about Max Muncy and how he's connected to the number 13 and LA. And honest to God, I was just about to finish this post. Then I discovered that there's another Max Muncy who plays baseball. And this Max Muncy was also drafted by the Oakland A's. And this other Max Muncy was also born on August 25th. And I was like, what in the world is going on? So Max Muncy, born August 25th, drafted by the A's. And now we have this other Max Muncy, born August 25th, drafted by the A's. August 25th was the date that Neil Armstrong died. And he died in the year 2012, which is the year that Max Muncy was drafted by the Oakland A's. Now, consider how a very significant number of the moon is 13, right? The word moon begins with the 13th letter. It ends with the 13th letter in reverse. There's 13 lunar phases every couple of years. And the number 13 equals 99, like the moon 99. Max Muncy's real name is Maxwell, which equals 90 and 99, just like the moon. And he wears number 13, playing for LA. And of course, LA equals 13. Now, these two men are born exactly 12 years apart. So, no, it's not 13. But if you believe in the rule of Carlisle and the powers of ones not meaning anything, then this is essentially a 13. Technically, you could say that Max Muncy was born on the first day of the 13th year since the other Max Muncy was born. When Max Muncy signed with the Dodgers, it was on the date April 27th, which is the 117th day of the year. 117 is the number that Dodgers shares with the number 13. If you multiply 13 times 13, and yes, I'm really writing 13 out 13 times, you get a product of 169. And Max Muncy was drafted 169th in the 2012 draft. That's weird. It actually doesn't say where he was drafted. I assure you, you can look it up. The 2012 draft, Max Muncy taken 169th. I pointed out how 13 equals 99, like Maxwell and the moon. Well, when Max Muncy made his major league debut, he was exactly 9,009 days old. When Muncy made his debut with the Dodgers, he was 10,097 days old. And this represents the number 197, which is the ordinal value of Los Angeles, California. Metonic cycle, 197. The Metonic cycle lasts 19 years. 19 years, 7 of them which contain a 13th month. 13th month equals 197. But not only that, Muncy also made his Dodgers debut 235 days after his birthday. And his full name is Maxwell Stephen Muncy, which equals 235 in reverse. The Metonic cycle, which is 19 years, syncs up perfectly with 235 lunar phases. So another big moon number. And how funny is it that Max Muncy went to Baylor University, which equals 235 and 197. He made his debut for the Dodgers in 2018. Maxwell Muncy equals 218 with capital letters. The word moon equals 218 in Hebrew. When Muncy was first drafted in 2009, before he decided to go to Baylor instead, he was drafted in the 41st round. And that stands out because 41 is the 13th prime number. The 13th triangular number is 91. Maxwell Stephen Muncy equals 91, drafted again by the A's, 91. He even signed with the Dodgers when he was 1,391 weeks old. So, yeah, all these 13s, and then you get this other baseball player born on the first day of the 13th year since Max Muncy. It's just crazy. All right, so we've been running over a little hour, or a little over an hour now. We got one more post to look at. And we're going to look at my home baseball team, the Milwaukee Brewers. Now, my last video was about the no-hitter thrown by Corbin Burnes. And this was the 314th no-hitter in the history of Major League Baseball. I've been doing videos and posts on no-hitters in Major League Baseball all year because I've seen that there's been a huge riddle connected to them. And then it all culminated with this one. Notice how Milwaukee equals 143 in reverse, which of course are the same digits as 314 or pi. Corbin Burnes was exactly 1,043 weeks old when he threw his no-hitter. It was the 314th in history. But what I didn't talk about in that post is how it was connected to the only other no-hitter thrown in Milwaukee Brewers franchise history. So Corbin Burnes threw 8 innings of a no-hitter, a span of 34 years and 150 days after Juan Nieves threw his no-hitter for the Milwaukee Brewers. And the number 34 stands out because Corbin and Burnes equals 34. The name Nieves also equals 34. As far as the 150 days after the anniversary, the name Juan Nieves equals 150 in reverse. And what I didn't mention in my post is that Juan Nieves equals 39. Corbin Burnes wears number 39. And yeah, his whole thing is connected to Ricky Vaughn, who's played by Charlie Sheen, who was born on the 3rd of September, or 3-9. So if you instead measure from the date of Nieves' no-hitter to the date that Corbin Burnes was born, you get a span of 90 months and 8 days, like the number 98. 98 is the value of both Milwaukee Brewers and Juan Nieves and Corbin Burnes. However, Burnes' birthday also falls 190 days after the anniversary of that no-hitter. And 190 is the ordinal value of Milwaukee Brewers. This represents the number 19. Consider how the best player in Brewers history is number 19, Robin Yount. The phrase no-hitter also equals 109 or 19 in numerology. Now, the number 109 is the 29th prime number, and this 19-29 relationship is exhibited here through the Brewers. So Milwaukee Brewers, 19. The Milwaukee Brewers equals 29 in reverse there. The name Nieves equals 29 in reduction. And he was born exactly 29 years and 290 days before Corbin Burns. When Juan Nieves made his major league debut, it was on a date with 19 and 29 numerology. Talking about this connection, 19 and 29, there it is. But notice something else about this date, April 10th of 86. Not only did that date have numerology of 100, but it was also the 100th day of the year. When Nieves made his final major league appearance, his career was cut short due to injury. It was on another date with 100 numerology. In the alphabetic order, Milwaukee equals 100. And when Juan Nieves threw his only no-hitter on April 15th, it fell exactly 100 days after his birthday. Now, if you include the end date, this is 14 weeks and 3 days. And remember, Milwaukee equals 143 in reverse. Corbin Burns exactly 1,403 weeks old when he threw Major League's 314th no-hitter. But check this out. This is where it gets undeniable. And this is what I think the people who look at Gematria and don't believe it should really see, because as I commonly explain, it's all of these ciphers that matter. People often say, how do you know which one to pick? But it's all of them. So when you measure from Juan Nieves' major league debut to the date that he threw his no-hitter, it was either 370 days, and let's do this on screen so you can see for yourself. Without the end date, it's 370 days, like 37. With the end date, this is 53 weeks exactly. And Milwaukee equals 37 and 53. This no-hitter was thrown on a date with numerology of 125 and 44. And Milwaukee is the biggest city in the state of Wisconsin, which equals 125 and 44. His no-hitter also falling 12 months, 5 days after his major league debut. On the date that he threw his no-hitter, Juan Nieves, if I can remember which year he was born in, he was born in 65, so 1565. He had just turned 1,162 weeks the day before he threw his no-hitter. In Jewish Gematria, Brewers equals 1162. Brewers also equals 90. Nieves was born on a date with primary numerology of 90. And then his final major league appearance was on the date leaving 90 days in the year. But finally, to wrap this video up, we need to talk about how the Brewers recently threw their second no-hitter in history, Corbin Burns, on the date September 11th, which is again written 11/9, a very ritualistic date. And the number 119 stands out because Milwaukee Brewers' no-hitter sums to 119. Juan Nieves made his major league debut on a date with primary numerology of 119. His final game in the major leagues was played on a date with primary numerology of 119. The film Major League, which Corbin Burns' no-hitter was connected to, also released on a date with 119 numerology. And then Corbin Burns throws a no-hitter on 11/9, which was his 1160th day in the major leagues, an upside-down 9/11. The game was finished off by Josh Hader, who was 10,019 days old, another 119. And September 11th is the 254th day of the year. The first no-hitter thrown by Juan Manuel Nieves Cruz, whose full name sums to 254 in the alphabetic order. Pretty wild stuff now, guys. So, shout out to everybody who jumped in on the chat and throwing in on the fines. Just looking at some of the comments here recently towards the end of this video, someone asking about Corbin Burnson. And yes, go back on my channel and watch my video on Corbin Burns' no-hitter. In the thumbnail for that video, there's a picture of Ricky Vaughn, who's the closer from Major League. And in Major League, one of the other lead actors is Corbin Burnson. The film Major League was filmed in Milwaukee, but features the Cleveland Indians. Corbin Burns plays for Milwaukee and threw a no-hitter against the Cleveland Indians. In the film, the closing pitcher wears goggles or glasses, and when Corbin Burns entered the league, he was a relief pitcher who wore glasses. I mean, the syncs are completely undeniable, and I pointed out the relationship between Corbin Burnson and Corbin Burns 3 years ago. And I even mentioned the number 314 in that post, and then he goes on to throw the 314th no-hitter. So, you know, I'm entertained by the fact that some people still think Gematria is weird or irrelevant or crazy because I guess I find life a lot more interesting than those people do. Let's just say that. So, shout out to everybody throwing down truth bombs. Zenith of the Alpha, long-time follower, long-time contributor. Been doing this as long as I have, pretty much. Always appreciated to see him in there. A lot of chat to catch up with. I wasn't really going to look at it, but why not? It's been an hour and a half almost. As far as Aston Villa winning against Chelsea this week, I have no idea. I haven't looked at the numbers. I'm not even suggesting that the whole Steffie Gregg thing has anything to do with future games, but, you know, it is interesting, right? I mean, I did one decode on Aston Villa, and then I did another entirely separate decode on Chelsea. So the fact that those two teams play each other this week is pretty interesting. Yeah, and guys, you'll notice I'm a little more careful with my words when I talk about murder, death, sacrifice, things of that nature, because I don't know what's going on for sure. I mean, the only reason I really thought these people were all getting murdered is because that's what other people were telling me. I don't have any evidence of that. I look at my own life and see things play out by the numbers, so I can't imagine it's any different for people on the world stage. That being said, there are very alarming alignments with the phrase ritual human sacrifice to these deaths. I think you saw it in all 3 decodes I did on death stories today. Like, that 211 connection especially. You know, it's so powerful. You know, what I always like to say, and the seed of doubt that I like to plant, playing devil's advocate, so to speak, to a lot of the rest of the community, is that, you know, we talk about people being sacrificed at the ages of 90 plus and 81 and stuff like that. And, you know, in order for them to do that, remember, that means that person has to live that long to begin with. And when we talk about the deaths of people in their 90s, it's like, you know, I think barely 10% of people even make it to 90 years old. So claiming that they're getting murdered in their 90s suggests to me that these people are literally taking a 90+% chance that this person's going to die naturally before deciding to kill them. And that doesn't make sense to me. Maybe that's what's happening, and that would be terrible. But, I don't know. All I can do from my chair here behind my computer is show you guys the undeniable, alarming numerical synchronicities. And as far as judging what's happening in this world, some of that has to be on your own accord. It's got to be your own investigation. It's got to be your own intuition. I can't change those things about people, and I don't necessarily wish to, but I definitely wish that a larger portion of society and public in general recognized what was happening in this matrix. But I'm not sure that's how this place is supposed to be. I don't think numerology will always resonate with everybody. I think no matter how much time passes and how good this research gets and how undeniable the riddles get, you will always have a larger percentage of people who don't get this. And I guess that's fine, man. I mean, I was born here with no choice in the matter, so I kind of have to accept that part of it. But it's nice to know that there is a percentage of humanity that can watch my videos and agree with me that, man, something really significant is going on here, and there's a beauty behind it, which sounds kind of sick if it is people just sitting around a table planning things out, but how you perceive these things, how you interpret what you see, a lot of that's on you. And part of the reason I haven't been making so many videos lately is because I'm trying to put a positive energy out into the world. And yes, this knowledge is important, and yes, it seems to be very relevant, but all I can do is share it and hope you see that too. I'm not selling snake oil here. So yeah, I'm just, reconsidering what's going on. And again, you see the Gabby Petito story, and again, my instinct just as well was that it was fake, right? And that it's just a cover-up. It's a distraction for the masses. And maybe it's a real story they're using as a distraction. I don't know. But, guys, if you really think it's fake, go watch that hour and 20 minutes where the cops talk to the two on the side of the road. And, suggest to me that these people are acting? Really? It doesn't seem right. There's something more going on, guys. And remember, I think 3 years ago, I did the numerology of Chris Watts. We might as well dig this post up real quick. Chris Watts, Gematrinator. And back in 2018, I called this a media hoax because I was convinced it was, because the numbers were so strong. Watts equals 83, Colorado 83, murder 83. This man pled guilty 83 days after he was arrested. So for a long time, I was like, yeah, this is a hoax. This is all BS. Again, maybe it is. But then came the body cam footage of the arrest of Chris Watts. And, for anyone who thinks it's all a hoax, just watch this. And again, maybe it is. But this is, 30 minutes of police interactions where, if this is all a hoax, then you're also telling me that this guy is acting the whole time. And not sure. I don't know. It comes off as very legit, is all I'm saying. So, synchronicity is real as well. We're just digging through the web. Someone's suggesting that maybe everyone but Gabby was in on it. I don't know. Are you going to tell her she has to be in a relationship with somebody or whatever? I'm not sure. All I know is that the body cam footage of the Petito and laundry situation was, I mean, it's kind of disheartening. Like, you're looking at this woman literally crying for an hour straight, sobbing. And meanwhile, this guy seems completely unconcerned. He's cracking jokes with the officers, grinning and smiling through the whole thing. There is clearly a strong disconnect between those two. And you'd like to see something more done, but who knows? Someone says Brian struck a Masonic pose for a while. Yeah, that's an interesting take on it. One thing I wondered about Brian is whether or not he was really only 23 years old. He comes off as a little bit older. Maybe just because he was bald. I don't know. So yeah, on this channel, I'll share the numerology with you guys. I will show you the deep script behind what's going on. I'm just a little less certain about, what's causing everything. Because I have no proof. I can only say what I see. But, her being a sacrifice, it makes sense, right? We talked about the sacrifice coding, and really the alignments and synchronicities with Norm Macdonald are insane. And Norm Macdonald was a big name. I think, for me personally, he was definitely like one of my top 3 comedians of all time. Right up there with Carlin, honestly. And, they were very different comedians. You go see Carlin and he'll blow your mind. He'll make you think about the language and change your perception on everything you say and do, whereas Norm was just hilarious. Like, the guy was the best at throwing curveballs your way, and, always enjoyed a good laugh from Norm. So for there to be a significant sacrifice in connection to Macdonald, it does make sense. Do I even mention the Jews? Well, not a lot, and I'll tell you why. For one, I think it's a misdirect of sorts, right? Assuming it's true that these are conspiracies occurring at some deep level, then to blame it on Jews is short-sighted. Because it's not just Jews, okay? There's people from all religions doing this, and Judaism has nothing to do with what's happening. I mean, yes, Judaism is closer to the Kabbalistic culture that we see play out through these scripts, but saying it's the Jews, what am I doing if I say it's the Jews? Now, everyone who watches this video is like, yeah, Jews, haha, Jews. And the next time they meet a Jewish person, they're going to have something negative about them in the back of their head, even though the vast, vast majority of Jewish people have nothing to do with this. And no, I'm not Jewish. However, I do have Jewish ancestry, and that's something that's out of my control. My story is almost identical to Zach's in the sense that we both have a grandparent who was completely Jewish, but we never met them. So my grandma was 13 years older than my mother's father. And after he found out she was pregnant, he bolted and had a family of his own. So I think that's why I'm into numerology. And it probably has something to do with it anyway. So anyways, yeah, I mean, the whole thing is silly. And it's the same reason I don't always harp on Jesuits and stuff. Now, I think everybody should definitely look into the Jesuit order. And there are absolutely many rituals that occur in the media connected to the Jesuits. That's a lot more relevant than saying the Jews. So, blasting one whole race of people ain't going to get anybody anywhere. On top of that, this is my second YouTube channel. My first one was deleted. And the last video I made before my first channel was deleted is where I explained the numerology of how this was the Parkland shooting. So remember, back in February of 2018, we had the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas shooting. And that was in a strongly Jewish community. And the sheriff was Jewish, the governor was Jewish, the mayor was Jewish. It was a Jewish school. I made a full blitz on the Jews in that video. And YouTube not only struck that video down, but they deleted my entire channel. So, you know, maybe it's the Jews, but again, it's not something I can prove. And there's really no point in talking about it because all I'm doing is harboring more hate. And I'm getting my channel deleted in the process. So, so I hope that explains it, you know. I'm not trying to shy away from the truth of anything. Don't put me in that category. Don't be silly. Don't be ridiculous. It's true that all I really do care about is the truth. And that's why my tone about these things has changed over the years. I like Juice too, Bobby. And we definitely don't need to get Juice a bad rap. So, you know, it's easy to pin everything on one group of people or whatever, but let's not do that, guys. Let's be better than that. Division and hatred is exactly what the media wants. And if the media wants it, it ain't good for you. Because the media is just a way of controlling the masses. I think everyone realizes that. Who's watching this channel anyway? All right, so enough of my blabbering. That'll do it for this video. Shout out to everybody. Again, whether you're watching live or archived, please do hit the like button. Subscribe if you're not already subscribed. Drop a comment. Drop what you think about what's going on. If you have more information on things. If I'm wrong about anything in my videos, it's either because I'm doing these things too quickly or I ignored something I shouldn't have. So, you know, all these things that help the YouTube algorithm, even though YouTube has decisively stated that my work is not ideal for their platform. But, so it takes everyone sharing it. Would you quit spamming the chat? For God's sake. As far as the Holocaust, again, it's not black and white, people. You know, people come in here and they're like, "Oh, the Holocaust was all fake. It was all staged." Like, did 6 million Jews die in the Holocaust? No. No, they didn't. That's ridiculous. We know that's a lie. Were Jews killed around the time of World War II? Yes. So were a whole number of other ethnicities killed during the war. But you'll never see me out here like trying to garner sympathy for the Jews because of the Holocaust. But, you know, the idea that the Holocaust was a complete hoax, you know, it's all gray areas. All right? Yeah, I don't know if there were chambers, but again, to say that it's not real is to say that a shit ton of people didn't die during the 30s and 40s, you know? I mean, very odd. So to call me a fraud, it's fucking hilarious that people call me a fraud. And I really do think they are operatives because they don't mention anything about numerology. Like, think about this. All I'm doing is sitting here and talking about numbers. You know, explaining the synchronicities. I'm not telling you what to believe about it. I'm not trying to explain all that. Yet somehow, these people are trying to call me an agent. I mean, these people are hilarious. Yeah, lots of Polish people killed in World War II. The Armenian genocide, my goodness. I mean, the idea that we put the Holocaust above all the other deaths of the time is kind of silly. So, all right, guys. Enough of the controversial crap. You know where I stand on this. But I'm going to wrap the video up there. So, peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya!